top 8. Anish Giri, he is also fighting to qualify, and his game against Wenjun has started. What are we watching here?
Yeah, it's early days, but it's what we call a fianchetto variation, where both sides have now put their bishops on long diagonals, white's bishop on the g2 square, black's bishop on g7, and it could still transpose, I was going to say, into a Grunfeld, a King's Indian. It's more of a King's Indian type of opening, where black will try and push a pawn in the centre, most likely now. There we go from Anish Giri. But white's setup is very solid. White puts up this pawn centre, and any exchange of pawns in the centre means that white has a bit more space, but black is relatively flexible. Black can play on both sides of the board.
Okay.
I haven't seen Giri play like this too often, though, so I'm pretty sure Wenjun will be happy.
All right. Well, we're also joined by Tai, who's doing all the stats. 2 rounds to play now in the preliminaries. Tai, first of all, Anish Giri coming from a draw. Is he feeling safe to qualify now for the knockouts?
He's in very good shape. He's at 92% to qualify, but it's not quite set in stone yet.
And how about Ju Wenjun coming from that important win against Hans Niemann? Can Ju still become the first female player to qualify?
It is still possible. For those who really want to see chaos, it's worth keeping in mind that any of Aryan Tari, Hans Niemann, Ju Wenjun, or even Sam Shankland still have a mathematical chance if everything goes perfectly for them in these last 2 rounds.
Okay, exciting. And obviously, Levon Aronian, he is currently in 9th place. What will it take for Levon to make it into top 8?
Well, he's going to probably need to win a game. I'm not confident that 2 draws will do the trick. They might. There's a lot of possibilities. It could take up to 22 or as little as like 19 to qualify, and he's already on 18. But to really be safe, I think he needs to win a game if he wants to get out of that sort of 3-way race for 2 spots that he's in with Wei Yi and Mamedyarov now.
Wow. And obviously, I would say that maybe Anish Giri, Mamedyarov and Levon Aronian would have been mentioned as the 3 of the top favorites before the tournament started. Is it likely that one of them at least will miss the knockouts?
There's a pretty good chance of one of them missing, since none of them are safe and there's only 4 spots up for grabs. If Wei Yi qualifies, then one of them probably misses.
Wow. It's going to be 2 intense final rounds. Tai, thank you for joining. We'll talk to you again after this round.
Sounds great.
Perfect. All right. Well, quite a few moves in this one. The bar slightly over to Ju Wenjun's side. What kind of game is this?
Yeah, this is heating up to be a very complex, very tense game. I've played these positions a lot from the white side, and it's so hard to keep control. Anish Giri's last move, pushing Harry to the H-pawn, that's got a bit of chaos intended behind it. Black would love to push that pawn even further, maybe just soften up the pawn structure around white's king. I was talking to a good friend of ours, Malcolm Payne, an English international master, and he always said, in rapid blitz chess, never play this with white.
Oh.
You always somehow get softened up on the king side. You always get checkmated in the end, and from my experience, that is quite likely. Every time I play Luke McShane, another English grandmaster, he always seems to play this position, suffer for a long time as black, and then eventually checkmate me by using a few tricks. So I think for classical chess, it's quite okay with white, but yeah, blitz and rapid tricky.
Sorry, David, I was just saying you can see Ju Wenjun's laughing there again. I just thought it was like we spotted yesterday, and yeah, sorry to interrupt. It was just like, it's quite strange, you know, it's nice. Yeah, I mean, I like seeing that, you know, so...
well, she is the women's world champion, and we see the open world champion, Magnus Carlsen, often do the same. Maybe it is a world champion thing.
This is what you need to do more, just laugh, open up. Yeah,
She's just thinking, oh, ha, ha, I'm better than every other woman in the world.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
That's a lovely opera way of singing it. David, the opera singer.
I'm pretty sure that's what Magnus thinks as well when he's laughing to himself.
I am the boss. Yeah, so.
Don't you get some endorphins, I want to say, when you laugh and when you feel happy? And
some kind of chemicals are released.
Help your concentration level?
But you also look like a bit of a lunatic if you just go around laughing the whole time, and if you know, just...
Might not make any friends if you're just laughing at your opponents every game.
Yeah, I know.
No, there's difference in laughter, right? There's laughing at your opponent when you point your finger and you go, ha, ha, ha. But then there's like, you know, just like, I'm having a good time wherever I am in my mind. And everyone looks at you and goes, you're a bit strange, but like, I'm down with it too. And they also walk away with a smile.
I think if my opponent started laughing, it'd be really off-putting.
Really?
Yeah, I'd be a bit weird, you know. I'd get really paranoid. Like, what are you laughing at? You know, have I played a move? Why are you laughing at one of my moves? So I don't know. I wouldn't like it. So,
Yeah, okay.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Be strange.
I really don't like it when my opponents smile at me, but I learnt the way to stop them smiling is to just smile back. If they smile at you, just sit there. Yeah. And then eventually they stop and they get triggered. Make sure that they're the ones who lose their
Chess really is my favorite sport. I love it.
This is like psychological war games, you know, that I've never even heard of as an international master. You know, if I was playing David and I smiled at him, he smiled back, I'd be like, we're friends.
Can't be friends at the chessboard.
The surface, it was a little bit of a game being played.
Yeah.
And talking about making people smile, well, I do have to share with you a selfie that, a photo that Anas Erdecheri has shared with us, because he says our commentary helps to kill time during the evening ride back home in Dubai.
Oh.
And it's Dubai. Have you ever been to Dubai? It's like full of bright lights. It's such a beautiful city.
Oh, I can
imagine. You know, when you see this kind of cascade of blue, white, yellow lights, it's just something fantastic. And glad to be of assistance. And if you two want to send or share with us a selfie, share with us your location, or just send us your thoughts, then please tweet us using the hashtag ChessChamps, and we will feature them on the show.
Yeah, and meanwhile, a move from Wenjun. She wants to start expanding. White already has quite a lot of space with pawns, but she wants to especially kick away that black knight on the queen side from a very strong square. She wants to push her b-pawn. Maybe we can jump in, discuss some ideas, because it's really risky opening choice from Anish Giri, I've got to say. White's last move, pushing this pawn, is intended to push the b-pawn next. And b4, White gets a chance to play b4. What do you think Black should be doing? Because if this happens, for example, if Black just makes a random move, this could be very annoying for Black. This knight is the pride and joy. It needs to retreat now. I don't really see how to stop this move either. Maybe, what else can we try? Anish Giri, his idea on the previous turn was to push this pawn forward just to destabilize White over here. Okay, he actually just retreats his knight. I was going to say this is on the radar, asking White to push forward, but now maybe some dark square holes in White's position. Instead, he retreats the knight. What is the concept after White pushes forward? Does he just want to trade off a set of pawns, maybe open up the A line for the black rook? Does he just want to step back with the knight, put some pressure now on this guy? We're going to find out.
Yeah, that's a bit mysterious, isn't it? Because White would like to initiate a set of trades in order to help make her position easier to play, and I'm thinking primarily dark square bishops.
Okay, yeah. I mean, any other exchange, I'm not 100% sure for White, because White has space, Black is cramped, so actually Black is the one maybe trying to exchange pieces to free up position. But as you say, Jovanka, maybe if the dark square bishops come off, for example, let's try and make that happen. Yeah, something along these lines. Then, yeah, definitely the dark squares now. Black will feel weak on these squares. This pawn is especially weak now, backward pawn, easy target as well for White's pieces.
Yeah.
Not the end of the world, but maybe some small issues here for Black.
Yeah, I mean, I love playing these positions as White, generally. The kind of Roxy bind. I love having a bit more space, but I think you have to be very careful as White when you start pushing your pawns. Yeah. And a lot of time, Black's best strategy is just to wait, right? Mm-hmm. And those pawns that Giri Wenjun has pushed, they're not protecting each other anymore. So maybe this is what Anish is thinking. He's thinking, okay, they're going to be targets later on. And you often have to just be extremely patient in these types of structures, but I don't know. I mean, I think Anish is doing okay if the knight just drops back now. Surely, can't see anything.
I mean, it could drop back to this square as well, maybe to come and attack. You mentioned the weak pawns. This one is undefended. Maybe this would be a one idea. The one thing I don't think he should be doing is putting his knight on the edge of the board. That just looks like a bad square. So, yeah, one of these two squares looks very sensible for the knight. And it is a waiting game. Eventually, I'm slightly worried about White's pawn structure. I mentioned losing a few games. In my history, I remember also something very, very similar to this when I played some Blitz and Rapid games against Garry Kasparov. He managed to beat me in these types of positions by...
Name drop.
Yeah, but name dropping. But he really, with some really instructive maneuvers, managed to take advantage of these pawns being loose And something very similar to this, he often brought his knight out, tried to provoke me to touch this pawn. Often he would also push this pawn forward, force me, for example, say here, to weaken, and then he would fix something on this square. It's not easy to achieve right now for black, but yeah, there's all sorts of ideas later. And maybe, I was going to say maybe Anish, because he's played such an ambitious opening, he was always going to keep pieces on the board. So he retreats his knight to this square, no exchanges. He wants to leap into the center, maybe with this knight, maybe with this knight later. Really tense. I think objectively, white's probably better. White has the advantage in a classical game, but in rapid chess, there's a lot of space and therefore a lot of squares to keep guard of for white. Yeah. It's just one of those positions. I think I'm scarred by my personal memories on this position, but objectively, nothing to worry about yet for Zhu Wenjun.
Yeah, like you say, I also found the problem with this type of position, even in a classical game, is that you have to be precise right now. Otherwise, if you lose control, then black will get all of this counterplay that's just too hot to handle. And the problem with this time control is that, you're burning all the time. So when the critical moments hit, say around move 30, you're playing with 1 minute on the clock.
Yeah.
And things go wrong.
And it is pushing those pawns too soon. I mean, it's kind of the typical thing in a Maroczy bind when you have the white pawns. We can probably highlight them just on the light squares. Don't have to move any pieces, but this is kind of a Maroczy bind setup. And you get this against a lot of different black setups. When you start pushing your queenside pawns, well, they can actually it's really bad to do that because pawns can't go backwards. And maybe David here, black can just start attacking them. I mean, why not? Why not move the knight in? You want the B pawn, the white pawn next to that to be back now, defending that one, but it's not. It's prematurely gone forwards, I think. And black's got a very easy plan here. The bishop can come out and attack that pawn again. And it actually starts to look a bit uncomfortable, I think, for white, because maybe those pawns went forwards a bit too quickly there. So,
I mean, the evaluation bar really hates Zhu Wenjun's last move. I said there was nothing to worry about immediately, but maybe now, as Simon points out, how do we defend this pawn? Do you have to defend it with the queen? It does feel a bit loose. I don't see an immediate knockout blow, though. So maybe it's just to do with, again, something that I've experienced, just to do with this pawn pushing forward, undermining white's duo over here. If we step forward again, then black can start taking control over the dark squares, maybe with the bishop, maybe even with the queen coming forward, kind of sneaking into white's half. And if black's queen lands on this square, for example, the knight might follow in, and you can definitely imagine attack brewing against the white king.
Anish has only been able to win 3 games so far in the tournament. Is he struggling, though, to sort of finish it off when he does have a good position on the board?
Possibly. Maybe that's been his trademark in his earlier years, building up these great positions and then not finishing them off. There have been a couple of games in this tournament that I've seen, at least, where he's played very, very well, but his opponents have just played equally well, and it's... sometimes that just happens in chess at the top level.
Yeah.
Well, you have to remember, I think he's in the 8th spot place, just looking at the scores now. So it's really like, this is a key game. Only the top 8 players qualify, and there's only 2 games to go. So just having a little update, it looks like at the moment Anish is in 8th and Zhu Wenjun is in 10th. So this is really a key game for qualification, major game.
If she wins this, they will be on the same score. Wei Yi was supposed to play Rajabov in this round, so that's 3 points for Wei Yi, who is now on 19 points. So definitely this is a game where Anish needs points, and it's a crucial game for Zhu Wenjun.
Yeah, I mean, she's in a must-win situation in this game and her next game.
Yeah.
On the plus side, I did notice she had white when she beat Hans Niemann in the last round. She's got white again, and I saw some stats a while ago in these round-robin tournaments, all-play-all tournaments. Often players in half the players, they'll get double whites at some point, and normally if you win the first game and you get white again in the second game, you tend to win again. It's just a pattern. Maybe it's just that confidence boost of winning the first white game. I think there's some statistics out there. So just maybe from that mindset point of view, she's thinking, okay, I'm in great form with white, just beat Hans Niemann. White again now against Giri. He's not in the best of form, so she might try and take some risks later to try and win, but at the moment there is a big threat facing her. Black's knight has jumped forward, so the white h-pawn is under fire twice from black's knight and from black's light-squared bishop.
Yeah.
How to defend? Push that pawn forward or defend it with the king?
I guess pushing it forwards makes sense to force the black knight to make a decision about what it's going to do. And I imagine the black knight will come towards the centre or something, David? Or?
Yeah, unless Anish Giri is feeling extra greedy. So this pawn is attacked twice, as we mentioned. Yeah, I don't think defending it with the king's too great here because black's pawn will step forward, putting more pressure on the king. And if now we block, which we want to do, ideally, we never want to touch that black h-pawn, and then suddenly, whoops, some nasty checks. And black takes control. So, Simon, you think this one? I agree, that looks most natural.
Can you come? I mean, I'd love, yeah. And if you want to be really funky, you throw the black knight in, but you also might just look like a complete idiot and lose that knight. But it does force maybe the white king to go into the centre. Yeah. I mean,
because if the white king goes towards the knight can capture a pawn safely. So yeah, we have to go towards the centre.
And that's quite a weird. I mean, that's a very risky way to play.
It's a really concrete idea, you know, because
Yeah.
then
He's done it.
he's done it.
He's done
right?
it.
Okay.
Wow.
Wow. Okay, so well, is going to be forced to put her king on that very odd square. And now the question is,
Can we just checkmate?
Yeah.
Can we just go for this pawn? But I guess this is just defended by white's queen, perhaps.
And is the knight ever going to get out of that strange square? Because now the black knight doesn't have anywhere it can move to. Yeah. So you could just end up losing the knight. So it's a very risky way for Anish to play, it seems. And he probably didn't need to do this.
well, he's gone for an attacking move. He's developed the light square bishop, and that attacks the pawn on c4. And again, there's some certain issues. How are you going to defend that? I mean, are you going to step forward with the queen? Are you just going to...
Yeah, you could step forward with the queen, defending this guy. Struggling for other ideas here, to be honest. Pushing this pawn forward, it's attacked, doesn't feel right just because it feels like we're opening up the position when white's king is actually the more vulnerable of the two. All that black needs to do is somehow get a bishop, for example, onto this diagonal, and the white king is very awkwardly placed now, almost trapped. White has to throw something in the way to block now, and that would end quite badly. So, yeah, I mean, bad king versus bad knight. Which one is going to decide this game?
So if you defend the pawn, David, is there any... Yeah, so
I didn't see any follow-up for Giri immediately.
Nothing concrete as yet. So
I just have a sneaky feeling he intends to push and really kind of break his knight out to freedom forcefully.
I love seeing Anish play like this because we're so used to Anish, well, not playing the kings in defence. I can't remember him ever playing this opening, which is a really exciting opening to play. I recommend it. I remember talking about Bobby Fischer. Yeah. It was Bobby Fischer was really the player who made this opening from the black perspective popular.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, Bobby liked playing for a win, as we heard Magnus say, and he started playing the kings in defence, won loads of great games. Then Gary Kasparov played the kings in defence, and David had the honour of playing him in some of those games. And but Anish never plays like this, really, so it's great to see him go for the attack and play in this aggressive way. So
maybe it's just that freedom of playing someone he thinks, oh, he's a favourite against, someone slightly lower rated. But yeah, when Anish attacks, I've seen him play fantastically well. Sometimes it's just maybe fighting against his instincts sometimes, but it also gives him some freedom. So yeah, I would love to see a move like this one, pushing the pawn to g5, and the whole idea would be to get the black queen into the attack, maybe start opening up some more lines against the white king. And the knight we mentioned looks bad for black, but it is very safely defended by the bishop for now. White's a bit tied up. White's knight, white's queen, they're tied down to defending this pawn on c4 square.
See, David, when you attack, you're a natural. G5 is a great move. I mean, like, I know you prefer your grinding nowadays, but I want to see you play would you play the kings in defence for me?
I was thinking
just
about...
once?
Yeah.
Olympiad? Don't give your prep away.
No comment.
No comment. You know?
Well, if you please play g5 now, Anish.
Oh, come on.
The queen has defended this pawn. Okay, process of elimination. What else? The black rook looks nice, but it has no entry squares in white's half of the board. You don't really want to ever touch this bishop. It's your best piece. This knight's doing a good job attacking this c4 pawn. Bishop's doing a good job. The only pieces you can really improve for black are these two, but black's rook is great. we want to improve the queen, therefore open up a square for her. That would be my thinking, at least. And white's, I mean, the clear target in white's camp is the king, so we need to get towards it. You could also make an argument for this move, trying to threaten some checkmates, try to take this pawn. Actually, the white king would be trapped there. This would be on the radar too, but...
I love your G5.
Yeah, I think the G5 move is the winner for me, because everything else just feels a little bit slow. Here, you know, you've accelerated the play, and the pressure is on Ju, you know, to come up with a good defensive move. I mean, white's pieces are on a real tangle. It's very difficult to even suggest a single piece to improve themselves.
I mean, we talked about black's pieces, white's knight stuck defending this pawn, white's queen defending this pawn, white's knight, if it ever moves, then it would allow maybe the black rook to come into the position. White's rook stuck defending this bishop stuck defending its knight. The king unable to move. G5.
Yay, on the board.
Anish, he's attacking.
Yes.
A for attack.
Fantastic.
We love it. We love Anish attacking. This is great stuff. And David, you saw this idea straight away as well. So
I mean, I'm just trying to channel my inner Gary Kasparov. What would he do? He would throw all the pieces towards the white king.
Can I ask you about that? Because obviously this game's really heating up, and it seems like Anish is going for this final onslaught. But playing Kasparov in some blitz games and some rapid games, you know, he's considered to be one of the best players, if not the best player of all time. You were over at his house, and that what was that like?
It was scary. I mean, I'm always scared when I play these top guys just because they're so good, but he has this aura around him. He's especially strong. He was world champion for, 15 years, and #1 for longer. So it was intimidating. We ended up playing on a balcony in Croatia by the beach, and he was just in shorts. So I was like, wait, have I been tricked into some holiday? But yeah, once the game started, he was really intense. And I remember, so we played 9 rapid games first, and then 18 blitz games. But the rapid games, we kind of discussed what openings I would try and test him in, what openings I would play, because he was about to make a comeback and play another tournament in St. Louis. And he said, okay, test me in some King's Indians, play some King's Indians. And I was like, no, but that's your strong point and that's my weak point. But I ended up playing similar openings to this one, to Wenjun, and what she's doing right now. And I think I just got checkmated 3 times in my first 3 white games. And I just thought, you know, I didn't even make any blunders. I was just getting checkmated. He would just build up all his pieces and then break through. And I just thought, I mean, this guy, he's just not, I mean, he's unstoppable. Just the energy. He'd been retired for 12 years at this point, from classical chess at least. So
I can remember I met him once, and the thing you say about his aura, his energy, is totally true. I mean, a friend of mine won the Under-18 World Championships, and they had something at the Houses of Parliament, and he was supposed to invite his brother along. I had to pretend to be his brother to get in the Houses of Parliament, a little bit strange. But Gary Kasparov was there, and you know, and there was free champagne as well. Ooh. So I went out to Gary Kasparov with my rosy cheeks at the time, and you could just feel there's something about him special. It was like some magic. He just had this energy, which some people do, just like some aura of like, I'm a powerful person about him. And it was quite intimidating, I have to say, because there's some magic around him, really. So yeah. But yeah, I mean, a brilliant player, and one of the best players ever in the King's Indian defence, if not the best player probably of all time. So yeah.
I have to say, my experiences of all the world champions that I've met, they have a very similar aura. You know, you kind of feel that they are killers. You know, they have this ruthlessness to them.
But what comes first, that aura or the world championship title? Does it come with the title, or is it certain players?
I just feel that they get this. They have this aura. I mean, they have that dedication and ruthlessness that they really, you know, when you're sat there facing them over the board, they want to rip you apart, you know. And with most other grandmasters, I would say, you don't get that feeling. You kind of get the feeling, chess is chess, you know. It's an enjoyment, it's a blood sport, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, but with them, even in day, I mean, I remember bumping into Karpov in the lift, and maybe it was just me, but, you know, I felt that he had very, very icy eyes, and he was very piercing, and he just looked at me, and I could feel like he was assessing my whole character, my whole being.
Like a fish.
Yeah, like a fish. No, he was not a fish.
That's what, I remember Korchnoi said this.
Korchnoi famously said his name means
He said he's like a fish. He's slimy like a fish. Everything like him is a fish. He's a fish. It's just like,
Of cup.
that was it. Of cup. He's a fish. He's a slimy fish.
But I can tell you, he was no fish, and it didn't really help the matter that I actually, I needed to go to the ground floor, and I got off in the mezzanine, and I flounced off, and I was like, oh my goodness me, I'm going to have to walk back into the lift, and he's going to know that I've made this elementary mistake of getting off of the wrong floor. And I was like, no, I can't face this. I'm going to have to just live by my mistake and walk down those stairs. So, yeah.
Oh, well, the world champions. We do have a world champion in this game, Wenjun, women's world champion, and a bunch of moves, the bar going up for Anish now.
Yeah, a bunch of moves, and actually the queens have come off the board, so no big attack. This game is not going to end in checkmate in the next couple of moves, but actually, it just feels like White's position is collapsing. It feels like it's all falling apart. Oh, I was going to say no checkmates, but that one is brutal. I was expecting Black's knight to jump in, but instead the rook dives into the position.
What a beautiful move, David.
Wonderful move.
Yeah.
We should just backtrack a couple of moves. We saw this incredible attacking idea from Anish Giri. White did not want to see the black queen jump into the action, so instead, Wenjun forced the queens off, which is understandable, but it's come at the price of opening up paths for the black rooks. And look at these two black rooks. This line, they're both going to come in at some point. And after pawn takes pawn, not reacting to the attack on his knight, Anish instead jumped in and threatened checkmate. Rook takes pawn would happen. For example, pawn takes knight, and this would end in checkmate. So this is a mating net the white king sits in. Wenjun thinks the only way to save herself is to retreat this knight, but it's hanging by a thread. No escape squares for the king now. What is the killer blow?
Wow, that black knight jumping in is very tempting, isn't it, at some point?
This knight jumping, maybe.
And it's funny that one of the killer pieces is that weird black knight on the edge of the board as well, creating those checkmate fronts and pinning the white king down to where it is at the moment. But this is looks very scary for White. White's piece is just huddling there on the back rank.
I'm looking at lines like this one, so the black knight jumping in, if White plays bishop takes bishop, can we just ignore it and jump in with the other rook to threaten a nasty checkmate again? I mean, this looks so scary for White. Maybe White can survive here by eliminating, we've been talking about it a long time, eliminating that knight on the edge of the board. But, I mean, it's super scary for Wenjun right now. This knight move is the obvious one. Maybe there are others. Maybe the rook can jump in immediately to the second rank.
I was thinking that one as well, but I hadn't worked out the details. But goodness me, this position is scary. I mean, just looking at the bar's like it's completely lost for White. And definitely party time for Anish.
Yeah, he's got 8.5 minutes against 2.5 as well, so huge advantage on the clock. It definitely feels like he's more familiar with the plans, the ideas in this type of position, and now it's just about the details, working out what to play first. I mean, bringing the knight in looks so natural, can't be a mistake. If the knight is ever captured, this is just going to end in disaster for the white king. So this would be maybe the safe alternative. Yeah, I mean, bring the rook forward as well just looks too tempting. Just with the idea that if the white bishop moves, then you can actually sacrifice your rook with a checkmate. All the checkmates, we'll just show them as they come on the board. But also the idea is if the black knight is captured, the black bishop can just jump in, and still some pressure along the second rank. Once the black bishop retreats on the next turn, the two black rooks are going to be the dominant pieces. Just look how active they are compared to white's pieces right now. All of white's pieces kind of huddled together. And he does play this.
Yeah, it is, the black pieces are just having fun here. And there's nothing to do. I can't see a single defensive move.
I mean, you might just have to, at some point, just trade off this really strong black knight just to get your king breathing again. But two bishops against two knights now, it's clear the bishops are better. I mean, the bishop will just retreat and look at the domination.
This reminds me of a Karpov-Kasparov game, actually, from the World Championships. One of the most famous ones where Kasparov won with the black pieces, where Karpov's piece, it was just in the middle on the back rank, huddling around. There was some great fights in their encounters.
Like this, yeah, just kind of barely clinging on,
they're
hanging
all
by a thread.
Sort of all defending, all passive. And Kasparov was brilliant with the energy he gave his pieces. He just somehow, they jumped into life like no one else's pieces.
Yeah, looking very, very good for Anish Giri. in the current position. Computer maybe thinks that some small chance for Zhu Wenjun, but in practical terms, it's all gone against her. She's down to 1 minute, and these 2 rooks are going to do significant damage in the near future.
We do see a result. Arjun Nergaisi has won his game against Jeffrey Shong, and that means the youngest player in the tournament is currently in the lead. If Samuel Sevian loses to Jan-Christoph Duda in this round, then Nergaisi will have the sole lead heading into the final round in the preliminaries. He's playing a fantastic tournament, and he has won 1, 2, 3, 4 of the 5 last games, Arjun, in great shape.
Yeah, I mean, he's been the man of the year for me the last 12 months.
Really?
Arjun Nergaisi, 2021, 2022. I mean, the improvement, I mean, he's gained a couple of 100 points since the pandemic started. But not just that, he's knocking on the door of 2,700. He's won so many events. And it looks like he's still got so much room to improve.
Yeah.
I've talked about him with some of the top players in the world, and they think he's going to make that next step up already. So, I mean, the likes of him and Prag might be the 2 to join the world's elite. And just beating everyone at the moment in this tournament, Arjun.
Fantastic. We can take a look at the current standings, actually. It's very interesting to follow. Only 8 players will qualify for the knockout stage, and Mamedyarov on 18 points, same as Anish, Giri and Levon Aronian heading into this round. And Levon Bar is roughly to the middle in his game against Leonid Dominguez. Mamedyarov, could he be about to lose against Aryan Tari? And that's going to be dramatic for Shahryar Mamedyarov if Levon is able, and Anish is able to get points in this round. It's going to be Shahryar outside top 8 if he loses this game. Wow.
Yeah, some really wild positions, especially in the Mamedyarov games. So,
Wow.
Yeah, nobody's safe yet. Just those top guys, I guess, the youngsters, they can relax a bit.
Yeah.
But the more experienced players, all to play for. And meanwhile, that variation we actually showed a few moments ago has happened on the board. We did see a couple of exchanges, so it's 2 bishops against 2 knights right now. And does Anish Giri have the time to just save one of his bishops? I mean, I would retreat the dark squared bishop somewhere. Yeah. I'm not sure where, but...
Yeah, I agree. I mean, maybe you don't have to worry about your pawn. You can just put it in the middle and you can move your king up. 2 bishops that are very strong, but at least White's not losing immediately. Yeah. that's about the only thing I can say about, good about White's position, because it was looking like there could be a checkmate a couple of moves ago.
Yeah. We haven't seen Zhu Wenjun smile for a while. That says it all, though, about White's position, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I just feel that the black rooks, they're so strong on the second row. I mean, I think that those 2 rooks combined are just going to be a killer duo. I think White's position is just going to crack.
Yeah, it's just about making it crack for Anish Giri, finding the way to crack the White position. She's covered everything, Zhu Wenjun, so he might need to take a time out. He does retreat his bishop to a great square.
I think the problem here is that White doesn't really have any moves, right? I mean, let's just say you move your king forwards. Again, this strategy is trying to find the best move for your opponent, not looking at your own moves, but looking at your opponent's moves. It's a great strategy to improve. Because if you find that your opponent doesn't have any moves, or the moves are going to make their position worse, it's actually best to wait. And there's a phrase, you wait until they basically implode. You don't have to force the issue. And I don't know, maybe White has some ways to improve, but I can't see many good moves. I
don't see it at all. This knight is stuck, otherwise the bishop will break through on this diagonal. This knight is stuck. This one is stuck, defending this pawn. Okay, he has actually played this move that you mentioned there, Simon, just going towards this pawn now as black. So these 2 knights are stuck, just trying to hold everything together. If these knights are stuck, it means this rook cannot break out either. This rook is stuck defending this pawn. These pawns are just immobilized. If you push any of them forward, they'll just drop.
Totally, and black has a passed pawn as well. I mean, it's not that far advanced, but it could be.
Yeah, later it has a clear run through. And maybe the only piece that can move safely right now is the king. But if the king moves forward, yes, you kick the bishop, but the bishop can just retreat somewhere, and the king actually finds itself on a really uncomfortable file rank anyway. So
It's like Zugzwang, really.
Yeah, you just have to go back and,
And,
sit and wait.
She doesn't have too much time on the clock, and she made that move with 8 seconds to spare. Okay, king moves.
Yeah,
Bishop is going to retreat.
Yeah, I think this is the safest square. Okay, he goes back. I was going to suggest this one as well, but I was reluctant to even dream of allowing an exchange. A trade of 1 set of pieces.
Wenjun has less than 5 seconds on the clock, and she makes a trade, and again is forced to defend pawns passively.
Yeah, but now she's still in Zugzwang. Look at the white knight, look at the white rooks. They're all stuck defending.
Knight stable.
Yeah.
So we got it. We got it on the
Theme
board.
of the day, Simon.
Yeah, it is on the board, and the king is marching up. The c pawn is also going to start marching forward.
Yeah, you can push that black c pawn now. The black king can just munch on a pawn. There we go. I wouldn't even touch that black c pawn right now. I would just use the black king just to go and take everything.
Yeah, but yours, David.
Oh, sorry.
That's
You
because
love
you
it.
want to get to move 100.
You'd probably triangulate a couple of times on the way, you know.
Piece twice, and then
Have you ever had that urge to like move your king to every square on the board before you make progress?
yeah,
Oh no, don't say you have.
No, but in bullet chess, I've done that a few times. I had a 305 move bullet game once. where
305.
I had 2 queens trapping my opponent's king, and then I just went to every square on the board. Then I pushed a pawn, then every square on the board, and then I stalemated him on move 305.
Oh no. How could you make 305 moves in a bullet game?
In 1 minute, yeah,
In
lots
1
of
minute.
pre-moves.
So 60 seconds, you made 305 moves.
Yeah, that's my record, at least.
That's how many moves? Okay, I can work this out. 60, 100. It might take me a while. The pressure's on.
I'll mention in the meantime, a win for young Christoph Duda against Samuel Sevian. The first loss for young Samuel in the tournament. He's still safe to qualify, but this means the youngest player in the tournament, Arjun Erigaisi, is in top of the table. Wow, impressive stuff.
God, that's like 5-6 moves a second.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just worked. Yeah, that's pretty impressive. Yeah.
Wow.
With a mouse, it's possible, the pre-moves. Over the board, it would be a bit trickier. But, yeah, we should say Duda, first of all, great result for him. He must be closing in on Magnus now, but Sam Sevian, first defeat of the tournament.
Yeah.
How will he bounce back? That's a big question now, going forward.
And also, the problem for these youngsters, they're playing fantastic chess. They're on top of the table. But the problem is these top guns, the favorites before the tournament, they're doing like so-and-so. So they're going to face these players in the knockout stage, which is a whole different story, correct? So right now, wouldn't it be Arjun against Anish, perhaps?
Yeah,
Or
imagine
Levon, yeah.
you dominate, you think, oh, my reward will be an easier pairing in the knockouts, and then you play Aronian or Anish Giri. Life isn't fair.
Yeah, it's brutal. The only tournament Arjun played last season was the Gold Money Asian Rapid. He did make it to the quarterfinals to face Levon, right?
Yes.
Could you have it so like you got 8 people who qualify, the top 4 pick who they play? Just to have it like a little bit of drama, because it's like, why are you picking me? You know, it's like, you know, so the person who comes top can pick his opponent or pick her opponent. I think it'd be quite controversial, because it's like, you know, you can really home in on people. It's like, oh, come on, but it can be quite interesting.
Yeah, and it's kind of the opposite from when you have pickings in gym class, for example. You want to be the one picked first.
Yeah.
Here it's kind of,
Yeah.
oh no,
And
the worst player.
we have a result. Wenjun has lost to Anish Giri.
3 points for Anish, 3 very important points for Anish, but now it's looking very good.